Right, so we're at the Kelvingrove and we are at the back. Technically...
This is the back?
Yeah, this is the back. Now, I don't know if you've heard this. There was a myth that the architect built it back to front and then he threw himself off one of the turrets, but apparently that's an urban myth.
I love the grandness of it.
I know.
We never get to see each other that much.
No,
so
ships in the night.
I was like, I'm up here for work. Let's see if Kel's around and we'll go around Kelvingrove.
Yeah, epic.
Never been around a museum.
No, we've never. On a personal level, I'm looking forward to going somewhere where I don't need to shout to hear each other, because normally we only go to gigs.
Actually chat.
Wander around and chat. I know. Let's do it.
Hello, I'm broadcaster Edith Bowman and I'm in Glasgow with my very good friend Kellee Quinn at the Kelvingrove Art Gallery and Museum.
And this is
Meet Me at the Museum. See, we've both got national art passes, which gives you discounted access, but this place is free to get in. But with our passes, gives us 10% off in the gift shop.
Oh, I love a gift shop.
Winning.
Let's go.
I don't think we've ever been to a museum together.
This is the only place we've been where
There's been
our
no booze.
feet have never stuck to the carpet. To be fair, and we're not holding warm beer or children. Yeah.
I kind of like crave a bit of time within an environment like this. Like
you seek it out.
And also I feel like I'm at an age as well where I want to feed my brain.
Exactly.
So I love...
It's not learning the Teletubbies or Paw Patrol or...
Absolutely. I think I had a weird kind of preconception growing up as to what museums were as well.
Yeah.
I think I had this idea that they were kind of old and stuffy and full of old things that weren't interesting to me.
Yeah.
But it's only after having kids, I would honestly say, that I started going and visiting museums and art galleries and places.
Same. One, to get out the rain, which is very important in Scotland.
So Kelvingrove is somewhere you bring the kids then?
Yeah, pretty much, probably twice a month.
Wow. Should we go out and sort of have a peruse? Because there's a couple of things that I think would be really... I mean, I don't know what's here, to be honest. I've deliberately not kind of looked at what's on here.
Yep.
There's a whole kind of Scottish history area that I think would be good because, both of us have moved away from Scotland. You've come back.
I never get to go into those parts. I'm normally on the outside, so I think it would be nice to delve a little bit deeper and actually look at something for longer than 0.2 seconds.
We've got a floor plan there. Mm-hmm. Let's not do Dali now.
No.
Let's do
what about
the McNabb Sir Henry Rayburn, Scottish Identity and Art.
Nice.
There's a man in a kilt on there. Let's do
take
it.
me. Take me and I would walk fast.
I am fiercely proud of being Scottish, and even though I've now lived longer out of Scotland than I've lived in Scotland, it doesn't make me feel any less Scottish.
No, you are very Scottish.
I left because there wasn't enough opportunity here for me to follow what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to get into broadcasting, and I tried to get a job.
You did radio up there, didn't you?
I did radio up here. I couldn't get in full time. I applied for everything. I auditioned for everything. I got nothing.
Yeah.
In fact, I got a lot of negative feedback about my accent, even in Scotland, from being a fifer and having a kind of East Coast accent. So you met as you come in with this kind of really bold images of famous Scots, be that Mary Queen of Scots, Robert Burns. It says, myth and reality. Scotland's identity has been shaped by its powerful past and passionate heroes. History is shaped by both myth and reality. In the 19th century, artists were inspired by the romance of Scotland, weaving fact and fiction together. They created new images of Scotland's people and its past. That's really interesting.
Isn't it? And I always use the word romance when I talk about Scotland.
Yeah.
It's beautiful and it's a bit dark and a bit cold and you want to hug up and get a bit cosy and a little whiskey and check what's under the kilt if you're lucky,
Actually, that's the first thing that people say when they go, oh, where are you from? Oh, Scotland. Oh, it's beautiful.
Yeah. Now, this piece is the one I wanted to come and see.
Is it? Okay,
but
tell me.
This one, The Execution of Mary Queen of Scots.
Robert Herman's Execution of Mary Queen of Scots from 1867.
Now, I mean, she looks incredible to me. She's, just to describe what's happening, it's Mary Queen of Scots heading towards her executioner. She's walking up to the executioner's block and she is dressed in her widow's clothing with the most beautiful long white veil, and she's being watched by two of her sort of handmaidens or maids back then, and I believe another man. So it looks like sympathisers on one side and then enemies kind of on the other side.
Yeah, she's walking
but
towards
she's so serene looking. And considering, if I'm right, she had been held down in London for about nearly 20 years.
They just the slight visual of the petticoat, the kind of red petticoat, and her rosary beads as well.
It's beautiful.
Yeah,
that is beautiful.
It's stunning.
Actually, it says there, the blood red petticoat symbolises her martyrdom to the Catholic faith. Yeah. She's going out strong, isn't she? It's beautiful.
Head held high.
And again, in the description next to this, she's described as one of Scotland's most romantic figures. The myth of romance. Always romantic. We should be more romantic.
I love romance.
Yeah, I love a bit of romance. Husbands listening, check. 1, 2, 1, 2.
Right, let's move on.
You know, we met in London nearly 20 years ago, which is mind-blowing. And drawn to each other, I think, as Scottish people are when you hear an accent. And but I've just been back here now 5 years, and I came back and I went full Scotland. I went to Glencoe and we went all around the Highlands, and I still haven't done enough, but I'm fiercely Scottish. You never go anywhere in the world and people aren't happy to hear a Scottish accent. You're always greeted with a warm welcome.
That's the one thing I'm kind of scared about, is losing my accent being down the road. And
you're definitely not losing your accent.
Scotsman from 1987, Ron O'Donnell. Photographic print. See, this is your world, because your photography is extraordinary, and Scotland and the landscape is such a big part of what you do, isn't it, in terms of...
Yeah, I definitely don't have tartan wallpaper in my work, but I'm considering it from now on.
Can I say something controversial?
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of tartan.
I'm not actually wasn't a big fan of... The only thing that ruined it for me was weddings and the overuse of kilt done wrongly.
I like a subtle kilt.
This painting right now is quite mad.
Yeah,
to me, it's a lot of tartan.
It's like Scottish symbolism.
Yeah,
like almost caricature. There's so much to see in this small little exhibit, really. You know, it's not just paintings. There's a massive stag up there. There's clothes.
So it's kind of nice to spend the time learning a little bit about it, and I believe we might be learning a little bit more
from someone who knows more than us. Hi, Jo.
Hello.
Jo, thanks for meeting us.
Welcome to Scottish Identity and Art Gallery.
Can you tell us what your official title is?
So I'm the Curator of British Art for Glasgow Museums.
Wow.
It's quite a vast remit. It's from 1600 to 1960, so...
Why is having a specific Scottish identity exhibition important to Kelvingrove?
Well, actually, this gallery was the result of public consultation. It's what our visitors wanted, and it tackles a lot of Scottish themes. So it's a really popular gallery in terms of thinking about what it means to be Scottish. But there are some things that perhaps it could address better, and these are things that we're looking at the moment. For example, Scotland's the transatlantic slave trade and its involvement in the slave trade. So that's something that we're going to be bringing out in the year ahead.
That's quite an interesting piece.
Yes, the Last of the Clan there by Thomas Fade is a really relevant painting today when thinking about
the Highland
poverty, thinking about power, thinking about homelessness, about refugees, because it's about the Highland clearances, and it reminds us that Scottish people once were forced to leave their homes, they were forcibly evicted, and many had to go overseas in order to try and find a livelihood.
It's a truly sad painting. I mean, it's
beautiful, but
it's
just the kind of posture of everybody in it is kind of hunched and sort of sad and morose.
So this family is saying goodbye to members of their clan, their family, who are going overseas, maybe to America, Canada, Australia, to try and find work. And it's really quite a dramatic, emotive painting, because the viewer takes a position of being on the boat. You can see they're about to throw off the rope and be separated from their family forever, and we're on that boat watching this really painful farewell scene.
That's probably then one of the most relevant
I was going to say, it'd be really interesting
to
see that in a space up against a piece of modern art representing the refugee crisis of today, you know, in terms of comparing.
Like, some people might be more compassionate if they understood what was going on in our own country. This is why we are so diverse all over the world. Why people say, oh, everywhere you go in the world, someone knows someone from Scotland.
And you're always welcomed with warmth.
Well, you always assume, I think, that they left willingly. People just wanted to go to Australia because it was sunny and we were freezing, and then you realise that maybe you were forced.
Yeah.
So as you can hear, it's getting rather noisy in this space. It's a very well-used gallery. We've got toddler time about to start. Can I quickly show you a painting, which is very relevant in our discussions about slavery? Because
no offence to the toddlers, but,
this wonderful double portrait. So Robert and Margaret Campbell are strolling the grounds of their estate Kelsey in Peeblesshire. And at the time this was painted, their estate was basically having a big revamp. They had a new house built, new stable block, new greenhouses and kitchen garden and mill and lodges. Where did all their money come from? They owned an estate in the West Indies in Grenada which had 232 enslaved people. So their wealth really comes off the back of enforced slave labour. But we're making sure that we tell these stories now, so people understand a bit more about what's behind these apparently beautiful paintings.
After this, I'll probably read up more then on how it ended. How did all that trade come to an end?
It's great to see, a whole gaggle of children in a corner in the museum with instruments in their hands, shakers and bells and stuff, having a lovely time at toddler time.
Hello, my name's Pat Doyle and I'm a learning assistant at Kelvingrove Museum.
Pat, thanks for sticking around to chat to us. That was a beautiful, lovely class. Amazing. Tell us a little bit about why you do it here in Kelvingrove.
We've got an informal programme, which is our weekend activities, and toddler time is part of that informal programme, which is still kind of educational as well.
Absolutely.
And enjoyable.
Amazing.
Yeah. Sometimes
my child's never sang a Gaelic nursery rhyme before.
About porridge.
Right.
About porridge. So I'll be taking that one home.
But just seeing their reaction, I mean, music's such a brilliant tool to communicate with kids. And, when the parents are singing in Gaelic and you see the two kids kind of moving and banging on the drums and the tambourines and stuff.
That resonates with you. I mean, it resonated. I mean, they played that music to resonate going into battle. So you can, not that toddlers do go into battle, but that was resonating with them. It gets you in your soul,
people don't really get a chance to do that these days.
No.
They don't really get a chance to get involved in live music a lot because there's so much recorded music, which is good. So I tend to mix it. I do a bit of live music, a bit of recorded music. It's enjoyable, but it's a museum. It's educated. We're an educational establishment.
Well, this makes a museum fun. I can't imagine there'd be probably many children be like, I don't want to go to the museum. Then you're like, well, wait till you come along and meet Pat. Well, I've got to say thanks for making our Scottish babies even more Scottish.
So we've come down from the first floor, down the beautiful staircase. We're going to go into looking at art in the Art Discovery Centre.
I do fancy going to see the Lowry.
Let's go see the Lowry.
Now we are moving in. All this room, this gallery is all mustard coloured, so it makes it quite vibrant.
VE Day 1945, L.S. Lowry, really famous painting.
So much energy in it.
I love that this is here.
It's just it's a street party. There's people holding hands and VE Day, standing in
the bunting
circles and having having the party dinner in the street, and you can feel all the industrialism behind it. You can feel all the smoke coming out of it, and
I like it a lot.
I'll get you that one. I'll get you that one for Christmas.
How much that's going to be worth.
Who was the artist that you bought with the money your granddad gave you? Isn't it?
Rob Ryan, is it?
Yes.
So he does the stencils.
Yes.
I walked past this gallery and this thing caught my attention, which was this kind of words cut out of cut out of papers. But the really blue paper that the words were cut out of. And I went into the shop and I was like, how much is that worth? I can't even remember the figure now, but it wasn't a stupid amount of money.
Yeah.
And I was on the phone to my mum, and my grandma had not long passed away. And she was phoning me to tell me that she'd left me a little bit, she had 19 grandchildren, so,
of course.
Large sums of money.
£5 each, children.
So she said, so I'll just send it out down on a cheque. And I was like, just out of interest, how much is it? And it was exactly the same amount of money as the painting was.
Wow.
So I went back and bought that.
I remember this. It was over your fireplace.
Still got it.
Really? It's beautiful.
Yeah, still got
beautiful.
it. Well, I only came here for the first time last year. I knew that the Linda Mccartney photography exhibition was on.
I was going to ask you about that.
Just spent a couple of hours just walking around. Got told off for taking pictures of her pictures.
You rebel.
You rebel.
Always.
I didn't see the sign.
Always pushing it.
It was amazing. It was so emotional.
Oh, so emotional. And so much with Scotland. And
So
that
much,
one line about the
absolutely.
Scottish light being the best in the world, you're like, yeah.
Yeah.
You're feeling all
Yeah.
patriotic again.
And I was blown away by the exhibition, but I was also just blown away by Kelvingrove. You know, I knew about it, and I just nothing had enticed me in. Mm-hmm. If you know there's something there to get you through the door, then once you're through the door, it's kind of like Aladdin's cave, really, isn't it?
I mean, this is stunning. It's probably one of the most stunning buildings I've ever been in. Let me take you,
Can you? Where are you taking me now?
my dear, to the Dutch Masters. As you know, we both love photography.
Yes.
And for some reason, my photography, even though I'm still very new at this, it started to get a little bit dark and moody.
Well, I was going to ask if coming to galleries is an inspiration for you in terms of, because you do so many different types of things with your photography.
Yeah, and the reason I get inspired by this is all to do with the light.
But it's really interesting because one of the things that you do, which I think is brilliantly, is kind of really celebrate, you know, women and breastfeeding and all that kind of thing as well. And you've taken some gorgeous pictures of women breastfeeding their children. And it's really great to be in here, knowing that this is the type of thing that's inspired you as well.
Well, the first one we walk into, and this probably sets the tone for this whole room, is the five senses. And so the five senses of touch, taste, hearing, sight and smell are represented here by 2 women and 3 children. Each of them is doing something connected one of all the senses. Can you identify them?
The one thing I do have a slight problem with a lot of this stuff is just the way that the children are painted. Like they're
never very,
they're a bit
quite freaky.
Gollum-like.
Yeah, quite freaky.
You know, in terms of
But, you know, we all think our children are good looking, but maybe they're not.
But they almost like
they're
children's
little old
bodies
men.
with adult faces.
Yeah, they're like little old men.
Old men.
Every one of these pictures that you go past is beautifully lit, isn't it? It's just beautifully lit. It's just a side window that's lighting the subject's face.
You being a professional photographer, and a brilliant one at that, and it being a hobby of mine, landscape of Scotland is a big part of your world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But where did your love of photography come from?
It's quite new, to be honest. Like, we never really discussed this when we first met.
When I was pregnant with Rudy, when my first he's living, I went back to college and did a night class in photography, so that I actually learned how it works.
I think that's what happens, though, is a lot of people are spurned on by having children because you want to document it. And I think I moved back here, my father wasn't very well, my nan had got dementia, and I realised that I'd look at these photographs of who these people were, and we're so used to bringing out iPhones and everybody's a photographer. You know, for me, it's capturing families and motherhood and pregnancy and children, and trying to give them a portrait, trying to give them a modern day. It's an heirloom that you're trying to create. And I would just love to think that long after I'm gone, that there's photographs that I've taken in people's homes and being loved.
That's a really nice,
epic.
No, it's a really nice way of putting it. Rudy wants to be a wildlife photographer.
Yeah, National Geographic. That was always I had a National Geographic subscription from when I was like 9 till I was about 20. I always thought, I've got to work for National Geographic. It's the dream.
Do it?
I'd love to. I do take very good pictures of boobs, so they might be interested.
There's more to Glasgow than engines and machine shops. In the art galleries, there's a collection of major importance, a collection worth coming a long way to see. As well as native art, it has work of international eminence. Dali's Christ.
I think when I moved back to Scotland, and I'd been out of Scotland since I was 17, so it was quite a while ago, put it that way. So when I came back here, it was the Salvador Dali. Everyone had talked about Salvador Dali and that's what brought me here, not just thinking about visiting the museum. It was that one specific piece that I wanted to come and see.
We're going to go meet Claire Gray, who's going to basically be a bit of our tour guide for us around that. So yeah, should we go and have a look? Hi.
Hello.
How you doing? I'm Edith.
I'm
nice
great.
to meet you.
Nice to meet you as
How
well.
you doing,
I'm Claire.
Edith? Nice to meet you, Claire. Thanks for chatting
I'm
to us.
Kellee.
Claire, what's your official title here at Kelvingrove?
I'm a Learning and Access Curator.
Amazing. And what's this piece called?
It's called Christ of St. John on the Cross by Salvador Dali. This is one of our iconic images.
Is this the one? Did you not buy this pretty cheap?
It was £8,200.
Oh my God. And
When
how
we
much is
got
it worth
it.
now?
We don't know how
You
much it's
do.
worth. It's
Roughly.
We've no idea. It's worth however much someone will pay for it, but certainly a vast sum.
So do they think this is one of the most iconic crucifixion pictures? It's
so
epic.
different from almost
perspective.
all other crucifixion images that you might think of. And one
Could
of
you
the
describe
reasons,
it to what's actually happening in it?
So what we have here is a cross positioned at the top of a canvas. The canvas is pretty big. It's about the size of, maybe not quite as big as a double bed, but getting there. The cross is placed right at the top of the canvas, and it's kind of looming over a small port town at the bottom of the canvas. The Christ is suspended on the cross, but there's no nails.
There's no blood.
There's no blood. There's no crown of thorns. Crucifixions and pictures of crucifixions were often used as a warning not to sin, so you would expect them to look torturous. This one's actually quite peaceful. And when Dali painted this, he did quite a lot of research. He suspended a Hollywood stuntman from a gantry to get this muscle group right across the shoulders and the neck there.
The trouble with interviewing Salvador Dali is that he talks with everything at once, including the radar whiskers which locate his ideas. He just loves to talk. 15 years ago, he wore a diving suit to deliver a lecture. Today, I'm normal, he says. Most impressive of all is Dali's crucifixion.
It's very unlike what you would think a Salvador Dali would look like. I think a lot of people assuming, with the melted
surrealism.
watch, all that stuff. This is not like that at all.
It's not, it's thought of as being more traditional than his surrealist work, but at the same time, we've got the real dark black at the top of the canvas there, but as you move down the canvas and you look at these little mountains and the port that's at the bottom, you've got those kind of surrealist shapes in there.
Very much.
This is Port Legat, which is in Catalan, and it's Salvador Dali's birthplace.
Dali is probably in that tradition, maybe it's a Spanish tradition, that he's been affected by it. He was thought not to be a man of faith, and certainly his views were always outrageous, but there was something there, I think, of that tradition of faith which was instinctive, it seems to me, when he painted that. And it's really more perhaps about the resurrection than it is about the crucifixion. It is rather the triumph of Christ rather than the death of Christ.
Can you see here, there's been a bit of a rip right along here and down there as well.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Can you see that?
Was that toddler time?
It wasn't toddler time, but yeah. That's why we have barriers. So that was in 1961. It was on display in Kelvingrove. It had a bench much like the one that's behind you. 2 visitors were sitting on there, and one of them suddenly jumped up, ripped down the barrier, took a piece of sandstone that they must have had with them, and slashed the painting along here, and then grabbed it and ripped it. The rip comes right down there to the right of that rowing boat there. And we're quite lucky because the rip came just below the cross and didn't actually go right across the figure.
Why? Did they?
They had no reason. They think it was probably mental health issues.
Okay.
It wasn't a malicious attack.
Yeah. Even the frame's beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you for showing us that. It's probably my favourite piece in the museum. But where are we going to go now?
I'm going to take you to my favourite piece, which is St Kilda.
Well, let's go.
Let's go.
So here we are at the St Kilda exhibition.
Okay, so tell us, what's the St Kilda exhibition?
This is a story of St Kilda, which is an outer Hebridean island, so isolated and wild. I think that's one of my favourite things about it. It was populated, but in 1930 they left.
Okay.
Before that, they had lived quite a hard life, but knew all the ways to live that life.
Yeah.
But the more they interacted with the outside world, the more they became dependent on food supplies from outside and looking maybe for a better life.
Oh, wow.
And that impacted on their ability to survive on this very wild rock.
Yeah. So they're just like, I've had enough. I'm out of here. I've had some Pringles, I'm out. I need to get to the mainland.
But I can totally relate to that, coming from a little fishing village and knowing that I needed to get out.
Yeah.
So when the St Kildans left for the final time, they all lit a fire in the hearth of their cottage and left a Gaelic Bible open at Exodus.
Agus hiúnta é an aige go talú kiddim. Ban huisgechan scaréte, agus chaine Israelich tré talú kiddim. Le ballad
And no one's on it now at all?
People come and go,
Yeah.
but it's not populated.
I want to go.
Yeah, I know, we should.
Oh, the organ's just started.
Which is a daily occurrence.
Every day, yes. I mean, we have professional organists every day of the year.
Because I think...
Does he take requests?
I know.
He sometimes does take requests. You can't just shout them at him,
Yeah,
but if we
We've
can...
got the right audience today. Do you want to go and listen to a bit of this organ?
Yes, yeah, it sounds
Shall we?
beautiful.
Let's go.
Do you know what I've loved about coming here is it's fed me, but it's fed me in that I want to learn more, and I think that that's what I'm getting from being the age that I am and weirdly being introduced to museums in a new way by being a mum to take my kids there. But now as an adult, it's kind of like there's so many things I want to learn from being here today, like about that remote island. You can hear the organ player in the background, by the way. It's brilliant.
He's amazing.
He's on for hours. Yeah. And there's just so much there that I want to learn about. Like, I need to know more.
It does make you... I mean, I know I said earlier that museums like maybe seem scary to people, but they shouldn't be, and you should come along. But there is a part of it which makes me feel a little bit ignorant, and that's okay.
Yeah.
You know, like you shouldn't be a know-it-all, especially with history. And there's a lot I don't know. I want to go away and learn. I know a little bit about the slavery. I know a little bit about the Highland clearances, but I want to go away and learn it, because that, if talking about, you know, our Scottish identity or what makes you feel Scottish, you can't really know it unless you know it all.
Thanks so much for listening to Meet Me at the Museum with me, Edith Bowman. If you liked this episode of the podcast, please rate, subscribe, or tell a friend.
And don't forget, if you've got a National Art Pass, you can get free entry or discounts on museums all around the country.